I was thinking about this though, how quickly narratives can change on coaches and players. And I think there is no easier one to discuss. And I do, by the way, I'm going to give away a pick for this weekend early. The Dolphins play the Patriots. Both teams looked horrendous. But those early season Dolphins games at Hard Rock Stadium greatly favor the Dolphins because the visiting team is in a part of a stadium where in the second half they're like a snail or ants, and the stadium acts like a magnifying glass where just the heat creeps down on them. And when you're not used to it, I mean, it just wears you out. Even when you are used to it, Dolphins are point and a half favorite. But they were non-competitive against the Indianapolis Colts. Next week, they have to go to Buffalo. Good news is they're playing Buffalo in September, so weather's not a factor. Bad news is, look, as much as I think they'll beat the Patriots, the chance of them turning around and beating the Bills in Buffalo, very remote. But this is a game in which they can win. They're a game where they're favored. They'll be favored against the Jets and the Panthers in a couple of weeks. But I want you to think about these two names. These two names. Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel. Isn't it fascinating how both of those guys, and Tua he's been a hard one to truly evaluate. He's been a hard one to be critical of because he does appear to be a great guy, and he has gotten hurt a bunch in his career. So do you hold it against him? Or this is the guy that suffered a concussion early last season. You're like, man, I don't know if I should ever play again. But the Miami Dolphins Sunday looked atrocious. They were a train wreck. Right? And remember, this is a team that last year started out as losers of 6 of their first 8 football games. 6 of their first 8. They started out 0-1. They had the Patriots this upcoming weekend. And you have Rex Ryan even on TV calling him a little nerd boy. Of course, no one likes the name calling. Not necessary. I like Rex, but what's really the point there? The issue is that you have Tua and McDaniel, and they're tied at the hip. And by now, it's a system that while you don't know the play, you know the style and what he does and what helps him be a high-level passer, and it can be taken away. Here's Colts corner Xavier Howard talk about how they were to be successful against the Dolphins.
We knew the guy, he get the ball out pretty quick. And once we take away his first read, I feel like it's panic mode after that. And it showed yesterday, man. We took away his first read, and he was trying to get rid of the ball real quick.
So some will say it's a timing-based offense. Xavier Howard just played against him, said it's about taking away his first read. And the point is that he's not a guy who can really ad-lib because not only is he not terribly athletic, but when he has tried to move in and out of the pocket and make extra plays, that's when he's gotten these concussions, or worse yet, gotten hurt when he's in college, and he dislocated his hip, where his hip went through the hip socket. This is a classic case of Mike McDaniel to take the job, had to tell everybody in the Dolphins organization, you got the right guy. This is the right guy. We're going to make him into something incredible. Knowing that Tua was not the right guy. Wasn't good enough. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Brian Flores deserves credit. Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, he was fired with Miami, and one reason people reported that he was fired was he never let management forget that they drafted the wrong quarterback in Tua when they could have had Justin Herbert. Now, I'll tell you that when I don't think Flores got fired specifically for that feeling or what he said. It was how he treated people, but he was right. Now, you can be right and still be out of a job. McDaniel, when he took the job, had to sort of bow at the altar of Tua, and it might not have even been because he liked Tua that much. It was because the guys who hung around, most notably general manager Chris Greer, they drafted Tua. So you can't come in and say, hey, you guys are hiring me, but you're idiots. You drafted the wrong quarterback. And instead, he made Tua out to be something that Tua has not been able to live up to. Yeah, he can be accurate. Yeah, he can play quarterback. Yeah, he can lead men. But he can't move. He doesn't have a big arm. He doesn't always throw a great spiral. And it's hard to be inspired by somebody who guys don't think is good enough at his job. McDaniels is the top candidate to be fired this year in the NFL. And this is a guy who had all the things. Had the swag, had the offense, had the speed, had to take the league by storm, and yet here we are. And it's why drafting a quarterback is so hard. And then being in that no man's land of, you got a guy who's decent, so in order to sign him, you got to give him more money. You don't want to give him a ton of money, but you can't give him no money. It's really hard. And then once if you have the wrong quarterback under a big number contract, now it's death to you. Death to you. The Miami Dolphins had a small window there where they were faster, more explosive, fun, interesting, had something going on, had a coach that people couldn't wait to see his press conferences. 2 years ago, they won 11 games. 11. And that was while dropping their last two. Right. Went to the playoffs, summarily lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year, slow start, off to 8-9. And it feels like, and remember, Tua didn't play in the last 2 games of the year. But it feels like the league has figured out Tua. The league has figured out McDaniels. Tyreek Hill can't keep it together off the football field. This thing's going to have to be nuked. And it's amazing to me how quickly people can change their opinion of not just the aptitude, but the coaching ability or even playing ability of a guy, where now most people are like, I don't even know how you start Tua. And McDaniels, well, he's got to be an idiot because he keeps throwing him out there. And for McDaniels' part, he's said, this is my franchise quarterback. For the first time in my recent memory, he said his play clearly wasn't good enough, right? That's as lightly critical as he can be of a guy who he basically placed under deity status. I think the Miami situation, already sort of imploding, is a really, really interesting watch, and one in which from however many thousand miles away and 30,000 feet above, it can tell you the story of the NFL.